one thing that I like to ask tree guys is, do you have any like close calls that were particularly close?
Oh man, yeah, lots of them.
Hmm. Anything come to mind?
Um, I was training someone on felling technique, and this was kind of earlier on. This would have been right after college,
Hmm.
and we were in a stand of mixed wood on the Maine coast, and all of the oak trees had been topped out, and the stems had been left to season on the stump vertically.
Okay.
This was being done because all the stems were going to be built into a timber frame barn.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
Yep, and this particular framer said, top the trees out, let them stand for a year.
Hmm.
Maybe it was even 2 years because the bark was falling off most of the oak.
Hmm.
And so we were back in there harvesting these stems.
Hmm.
And I said, well, this is the perfect time to train somebody. There's no crown weight. He can just make a notch, make his back cut, put a wedge in there, and boom.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm pulling the logs out with a tractor, with a John Deere tractor and a farmy winch.
Hmm.
And in typical fashion, I was too busy paying attention to what I was doing, and I had the cable over my shoulder, and I'm leaning into it, walking in the woods. Of course, it was wintertime, trudging through the snow.
Hmm.
And I'm just headed for a couple of logs to hook up, and I hear something faint, and I stopped. And 3 feet in front of me, a 2-foot oak stem just hit the ground.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa. And it was completely my fault. I lost track of where he was working, and I saw my job, and I just put my head down and was headed for it.
Yeah.
And
When that happened, were you wearing hearing protection?
yeah, I had a helmet and earmuffs down, and
Okay.
the tractor's running, and a chainsaw's running, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, when I was doing my apprenticeship, there was an old guy there, and he would never wear hearing protection. And I asked him about it one time, and he said, "Yeah, having something over my ears has made my life more dangerous on multiple occasions." And he said that's why I just never wear now. I have obviously he had hearing loss. I mean, I do too, but
right,
I think most of us
yeah,
do. But that was one thing that he swore by. He would not wear hearing protection because he thought it made him less safe overall. So
yeah,
it's interesting. I have one. I actually had one similar. I was working in it was a big storm damage thing, and there was this big, ugly willow tree, and it had this big broken top. And I was cutting below it with the pole saw, and I cut something, and then I heard this noise. Some muffled. I was wearing my hearing protection. It was muffled, and I wasn't sure what was going on. And then like half a second later, this huge broken top came crashing down right beside me and just snapped the pole saw right in half.
oh,
And that was again. I believe that was because of the hearing protection. If I didn't have that on, I think I would have known more what was going on, and I think I would have been able to move faster. So
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, if you're in this business, things will happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just try to be as safe as you possibly can be,
Mm-hmm.
and really to just be present. That's the
Yeah. It's a real struggle, isn't it, to leave behind like all of the stuff that's bothering you, especially if you're going climbing. You really got to leave. Try and figure out a way to leave that stuff on the ground because you do have to be present. You have to be mentally there and really paying attention whenever you're working,
yeah.
especially in the air, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, today with the type of production that we're able to do, the whole crew recognizes that there's more potential for injury to happen
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much more going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 climbers aloft, 2 groundsmen, a ditch witch, a chipper running. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Again, at my my apprenticeship years ago, like we used to tag team trees all the time. We'd have 2 climbers, and it was always a big crew. He always had like 6 guys, so 2 guys in the air and 4 guys on the ground, and that's pretty insane with all the cutting, and you got 3-4 chainsaws going and a chipper and stuff flying everywhere. Not necessarily recommended, but
Yeah.
but I mean I think a lot of places do that, right? Just for production. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the 2 climbers in a tree is kind of a new thing to me.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
We usually don't have trees that are that big to really warrant it.
Mm-hmm.
You get some of the big wolf pines that are multiple leads, 6 or 8 leads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did think of another one. I could give you one from more recent history.
A close call? Yeah, for sure.
I would consider it a close call because it was a misjudgment on my behalf, and it was one of those very eye-opening moments.
Mm-hmm.
I was working at a new account that we have this year, and they were behind on their tree work,
mm-hmm.
and numerous dead hemlock trees standing, inaccessible by a lift of any sort, and all kinds of targets,
Mm-hmm.
sensitive environment. And, and so I sound them out, and it sounded pretty good. And, as I climb up, in that case, I like to traditionally just spur up from the bottom and inspect as you go.
Yep.
And, this is a dead hemlock that the bark's starting to come off of the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of not so hot.
Mm-hmm.
But the branch cores were, pretty good. And going up, paying attention to how it's moving, I'm like, well, it's not great, but doing okay. And I didn't have any rigging to do. I just had to strategically drop limbs and send a small top out. But I did have to climb up into about 5-inch wood.
Yeah.
And, to my relief, when I topped it out, there was quite a sound core in that top inch of that hemlock tree.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just chunking it off as I came down, sending 4-foot chunks
mm-hmm.
into a little hole. And I got down, and I needed to change out my saw. It was about a 20-inch tree.
Yeah.
And I got down to one of my last cuts, and I was using, I had a 20-inch bar on my 50cc saw.
Mm-hmm.
And I set up to just cut that chunk off, and that saw, Patrick, went through that tree like it almost wasn't there.
Wow.
It was just that breadstick.
Yep.
It just, whoa. And I just had a moment. I had a moment right there.
Yeah. And so how far down the stem were you at that point? You pretty far?
At that point, I was probably 16 feet off the ground.
Okay. Yeah.
The tree had a light fixture on it, and I was going to leave it above the light fixture.
Yeah.
So.
I've seen that many times, actually. I've seen that many times where, like just almost nothing in terms of cambium can support so much above it, and you cut into it above it, and it seems all fine. And then you get down in the stem, and there'll be one section of stem which is just basically nothing. And it's just, it's amazing that they can grow like that. I mean, it happens a lot right at the base, like right at the ground, where it'll be nothing.
Yeah.
But it'll have a whole live tree on top of it, right? I see that a lot with like box elders, Manitoba maples around here. They'll grow like that.
Oh,
just scary.
Yep, Manitoba. I like that.
That's what we call them in Canada.
But growing up and working down by New York City there, we called them Bayonne palms.
Oh. Nice.